when you get rejected for a job, a lot of people who are new to this and a lot of people that are young tend to interpret it as it shows my value, and my value is not very good. Like I don't make the cut. I'm a failure. I don't have what it takes. They don't see me as someone that they would want to hire. Therefore, I'm a failure. That's how a lot of people, especially young people, interpret this. The reality is that it doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is that they were looking for a very specific thing, and you are not it. And depending on what they were looking for, it can actually be a good thing. You see, a lot of times they're looking for someone they can pull the wool over their eyes. They're looking for someone they can exploit. They're looking for someone that will take a measly, crappy job that doesn't pay very much and do it and not complain and stick around and be treated like a slave. That's what they're looking for. And they assessed you and they decided, you know what? You're not right for this. Now, I mean, that's more of a compliment than anything else. Now, the next time you apply to someone who claims they're looking for a worker or whatever, you know, maybe they're looking for a fine, forthright, outstanding, knowledgeable, hardworking, ambitious person who's going to brighten the days of all their coworkers and do a fantastic job, take a lot of pride in their work, and have ambitions to climb the ladder and really get into that industry and that business, you know? And maybe when they look at you, they'll conclude that you fit the bill, you know? You're the one they want, right? It depends what they're looking for. So being rejected in this process is no statement of your value or your worth. And like we were talking about earlier, it's the biggest factor in this happening is random statistical probability. The other factor, of course, is that, you know, if 200 people apply for the job and they interview, say, 10 people, and then of those 10, they pick one, usually what happens is when they interview 10 people, 9 of those people they like. They conclude that any of these 9 would be good candidates. We could offer the job to any of these 9 and the hiring manager would be happy. If they could, they'd hire all 9, right? If they had the capacity, because they liked 9 of the 10 candidates. Unfortunately, they can only offer the job to one person. So like I've said before, it's almost an eeny, meeny, miny, mo type situation where, you know, okay, whatever, we'll offer it to this one. They're one of the 9. You know, I don't know, they live the closest to the physical location where they have to show up every day, right? So, okay, there you go, right? You know what I mean? Like it's just, it really boils down to like a total crapshoot when you have to decide on that in that last round, right? So, okay, maybe they brought you in for an interview. You were one of the 9, but they didn't give you the offer, they gave it to someone else. It could have been you, but almost a matter of chance, they gave it to someone else. Now, is it right for you to go away thinking like, oh, you know, I'm no good, I'm a failure, no one will ever hire me, I'm unemployable? Absolutely not. That's an incorrect conclusion, right? So that's what's going on. So the way to win at this game is you first have to have a lot of leads, okay? You have to apply for a lot of things, and any kind of interview, you take it, you try to get as many interviews as you can, right? You try and pursue any lead. Now, a lot of those leads can come from networking, right? You reach out to companies and say, you know, I know you're not hiring, you haven't posted any jobs, but just so you know, if ever you're looking for someone who can do this really well, let me know. I can do that really well. I'm fully qualified to do this, and I know about your company, and I would love to work for you. So if ever you're looking, please let me know. Other than that, have yourself a great day. You know, and you just put that out there, right? And it's just a matter of pure chance that a couple of those companies are looking right now, but they haven't posted anything, because that happens a hell of a lot. And you just landed right in their lap. And they say, hey, you know, why don't you get together? Let's go have a coffee or something, you know, and talk about, you know, and what you do and, you know, all this kind of stuff, right? You know, it's pure chance. It's like the sales process. talk to a salesperson who does this kind of stuff for their job. They know it's a numbers game. You know, that's how this stuff works. So it's very hard. It's easier said than done to, like, you know, divorce yourself from like all the psychological turmoil involved in a rejection. I realize that, but understand that that's what's going on at the other end, you know. And out there's also a lot of malevolent, bad employers that are looking to exploit you, to get at you, you know. And if they reject you, that's actually a good thing, you know. You dodged a bullet, right? You were going to walk into a place where they give you the impression it's like this paradise, but it's actually hell. And you're going to have a terrible experience there. By the end of it, you'll have wished you've never heard of these people, right? You've saved yourself that. Okay, so just keep, I mean, I know this is a long-winded, rambling kind of thing, but try and keep some of these principles in mind as you go through this process, okay? It's a numbers game. Just like salespeople don't, as much as possible, they try and keep their emotions out of this because they know it's all based on statistical probability, right? As much as possible, you should try and adopt that same attitude. Pursue any lead you can. If people want to talk to you in an interview, great. You go down, you talk to them. If they want to talk to you again, great. If you never hear from them again, great. Whatever, you know, just keep moving forward. Like, the other stupid thing is, like, okay, think of this process, okay? Think of what we know. You have a resume and you use it to apply to multiple jobs, right? Now, some employers look at your resume and they go, absolutely not. This person is a non-starter. That means, like, there's no point in even talking to them. They're not qualified, right? And then another employer will look at that same resume and say, wow, you know, you're our lead candidate for this. And then they talk to you and they go, wow, you're hired. Now, I mean, you haven't changed. You have the same background, the same skills. You're the same person with the same soft skills, right? The only thing that's changed is the employer, right? So one employer views you as like a non-starter. Another employer views you as like the best of the bunch, right? So you've got to keep trying to connect with employers until you get to one that just happens to view you and what you have as the most valuable thing there is, right? And then it just works out. It just fits like a glove, and then it works out, right? That's how a lot of things work I've learned in business. You know, it just, you know, now you can go back and beat your head against the wall and say, like, you know, why didn't I get this job? You know, what's wrong with me? What do I have to change? You don't have to change anything. Just do the best you can, you know, beyond basic stuff like learn how to answer the cliched standard job interview questions. Learn how to be polite. Learn how to act professional. You know, learn how to try and be pleasant and likable as much as you possibly can when you talk to these people. You know, but beyond basic stuff like that, you don't have to change a thing. Just keep searching for that other party that's going to view you as highly valuable. And, you know, like, I know I keep harping on about networking, which is ironic because a lot of people on the internet, either they don't know anything about it or they don't want to hear about it, which is usually the two kind of go together, or they've seen it and they've seen other people get hired through networking and they're angry because, you know, on paper, you might be more qualified than the person that they ended up getting, but they chose them over you. Why is that? Well, it's because they know them, or they met them a couple of times and they haven't met you before, right? And when they met them, they said, oh, you know, you come across as professional. You seem pleasant enough. You seem to know your stuff, as far as I can tell, having a conversation with you. So yeah, you'll do, you know? And they hadn't done that with you. They're encountering you in a job interview. And in a job interview, it's a highly artificial, you know, exchange where candidates will almost say anything to get the job because there's money involved, right? But they met these other candidates that eventually got hired. They met them in a situation that wasn't a job interview. You know, it's stupid that it works, but it does. There are reasons why it does. For a start, if you want to know if the person is being genuine, like they're not fabricating things, in a job interview, it's widely known that people just make stuff up. Someone was talking about that earlier in the chat here. You know, should I lie on a resume or whatever? It's like, yeah, you know, because, I've been told I can get a job if I lie, right? Now, yeah, a lot of people lie in job interviews. You'll say anything you have to say to get the job because there's money involved, right? So they can't really accept anything you say. Honestly, there's always that suspicion. If they ask you, are you qualified in this? Your answer is always going to be yes. Yeah, I'm very qualified in that. They don't know whether to trust that, right? So they go with the person that they've had a casual conversation with where there wasn't a job involved. And they say, I know that person's qualified in that. I'm going to hire them because I trust their answer more. That's how networking works. Give yourself that advantage. Then they'll just believe you by default rather than doubt you by default, right?